Marjorie didn't ask what they were doing. She told them where they were allowed to stand. "Careful with that cabinet," she snapped, pointing at the inverter as if it answered to her. "That equipment regulates shared energy flow. You can't just disconnect it." "Shared," the way some people say mine. Even holding a warrant, one deputy hesitated. That was a real skill, making authority pause. Marjorie ran Coyote Ridge like a utility company disguised as an HOA. She rarely raised her voice. She issued instructions. People followed them. Then she noticed me watching. Her eyes locked onto mine instantly, sharp, like she just identified the source of a leak. "There he is," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "That homeowner has been interfering with community systems for weeks." I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. She smoothed her blazer, turned back to the agents, and delivered the line she'd clearly practiced. "He's been siphoning power, tampering with data. We have reports." That was the motive. Control the grid. Control the narrative. Control of who got blamed when the numbers stopped adding up. She believed rules only mattered when they served her direction. Everything else was noise to override. When an agent asked for her administrative credentials, her jaw tightened just for half a second. The first crack. She covered it quickly with a smile. The notice showed up on my door 2 days later, crooked, like it was meant to irritate. Non-compliant energy enclosure. Immediate correction required. No greeting. No explanation. Just a deadline and a fine large enough to demand attention. Marjorie didn't knock. She never did. She arrived with a clipboard and 2 bored volunteers trailing behind her, eyes down like witnesses who didn't want to be witnesses. She pointed at the steel housing beside my garage, the battery unit I'd installed when I moved in. "That casing isn't approved," she said. "Visual uniformity matters." "It's not visible from the street," I replied. She gave a thin smile. "It is now." That night, my exterior lights flickered, barely half a second, but enough to notice. The next morning, my energy dashboard showed a drop in stored power that didn't match my usage. I checked again at noon. Another discrepancy. Small, precise. Then came the second notice. Unauthorized load variance detected. Detected by who, it didn't say. I started paying closer attention. The timing was too clean. The drops always aligned with spikes in the community relay. When everyone else drew power, my system took the hit first. At the next HOA walkthrough, Marjorie lingered near my driveway longer than necessary, pretending to inspect landscaping while her phone stayed open in her hand. She didn't look at me when she spoke. Some homeowners forget that shared systems require oversight. There was again, shared, and suddenly, it didn't sound neighborly at all. The email arrived at 6:12 a.m., stamped with the HOA seal. Mandatory compliance. Energy access assessment required. According to Marjorie, the board had voted to temporarily monitor my home's connection to the community relay. A technician would install a diagnostics port, non-invasive, she assured, to verify load integrity. The language was polished, legal, deliberately vague. I didn't respond. By noon, a second message followed. Same subject line. Sharper tone. Failure to comply could result in restricted access during peak hours. That was the threat. Not a fine. Not yet. Control. That evening, I pulled my own data. Raw telemetry, not the HOA summaries. What I found didn't align. Power was leaving my system in short, aggressive bursts. Too clean to be mechanical. Too consistent to be random. It wasn't a drain. It was routing. Someone wasn't stealing electricity. They were redirecting it. I checked the relay logs next. That's when the pattern snapped into focus. My node was flagged as auxiliary stabilization, a designation I'd never requested, never approved. It meant my battery compensated whenever the grid dipped. Convenient, invisible, profitable. Marjorie showed up the next morning with a man in a polo shirt carrying a tablet. "Just here to observe," she said, already stepping over property line. "The board needs transparency." I stayed in the doorway, didn't move. Transparency goes both ways. She didn't answer, just scribbled a note, tapped her phone twice, like she was closing a file. That afternoon, the HOA website updated. A new policy appeared. Community Energy Oversight Initiative. No vote. No announcement. Authority quietly rewritten. That's when I understood this wasn't enforcement. It was infrastructure capture. I stopped reading summaries and started pulling raw export files, the ones no one expected anyone to request. Hour-by-hour load reports. Credit allocation tables. Transaction IDs buried deep beneath the polished community savings dashboard. That's where the lie revealed itself. My system wasn't stabilizing the grid. It was propping it up. Every shortfall, every surge, every moment the community exceeded capacity, my battery absorbed the impact, while the HOA logged the excess as collective output. Output they didn't own. They were selling it. Energy credits bundled and transferred to a shell account labeled CR Operations, routed to a regional broker. Not thousands, not tens of thousands. Over 18 months, the total cleared just under 7 figures. And every transfer carried the same approving signature. Marjorie Holt. That was when the air shifted. Not anger, something colder. Because this wasn't sloppy greed or HOA incompetence. It was structured, metered, audited just enough to pass a surface glance. My home was a keystone, quietly flagged, quietly exploited. I sat there longer than I meant to, staring at the screen as the desert heat pressed against the windows. Every notice, every inspection, every flicker I dismissed, it all clicked. It wasn't personal. I was inventory. Once I saw that, everything aligned. The urgency, the intimidation, the policies pushed through without votes. She wasn't enforcing rules. She was protecting a revenue stream. I saved everything. Hash-verified copies. Read-only archives. A timeline so precise it felt surgical. Then I found the final piece. Several reports submitted to the State Energy Exchange had been altered after submission, timestamps rewritten, source nodes reassigned. All edits traced back to a single administrative login, registered to Marjorie's home address. Credentials created the same day she first cited me for non-compliant energy use. That's when fear finally hit. Not for me, but for how far she'd go to bury it. This wasn't an HOA issue anymore. It was felony territory. And she had no idea I'd already crossed a line, from homeowner to witness. I didn't call the police. Not yet. I called the one office she couldn't intimidate, the State Energy Compliance Commission. I kept it careful. No accusations. Just questions about reporting thresholds and third-party load attribution. They called back that same afternoon. The engineer sounded curious at first. I shared one file, then another. Then came the pause, the kind that tells you someone just sat up straighter. That designation shouldn't exist, he said finally. Auxiliary stabilization requires written consent and independent verification. I never gave either, I said. 2 days later, a certified letter reached the HOA office requesting documentation for recent energy credit transfers. Marjorie responded publicly before anyone else could, assuring residents it was routine, nothing to worry about. Privately, she panicked. That night, my logs lit up. Attempt to reassign node IDs. Backdated edits. A sloppy overwrite that failed halfway through. She was trying to fix the past in real time. It only made things worse. Within 48 hours, the commission rejected the HOA's filings. An independent auditor flagged inconsistencies. A county inspector requested physical access to the relay cabinets. The language changed fast. Temporary became discrepancy. Clarification became unauthorized modification. Marjorie leaned forward. Those figures are preliminary. Click. Transaction records appeared, dates, amounts. The same account repeated line after line. CR Operations. Another click. Metadata. Edit histories. Timestamps rewritten hours. Sometimes days after submission. The cursor hovered over one entry, edited from an administrative login registered to this address. Marjorie shook her head quickly. Anyone could have accessed that. These systems are shared. The agent nodded slightly and displayed the final file. Device ID, her inverter, her home. Silence settled. Not shock, recognition. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Her chair scraped back sharply. This is a setup, she said, voice tight. You all know how complicated these systems are. Numbers get misread. No one agreed. One board member stared at the table. Another clasped her hands like she was bracing for impact. The agent spoke calmly. "Ma'am, we're executing a warrant to seize all HOA managed and personally controlled devices used in energy reporting. That's outrageous. You can't." "You've already consented," he said, holding up a signed document. "As administrator." Her face drained. She looked around for support. No one moved. I stood, not to speak, just to step aside as officers approached. She clutched the binder to her chest. "This isn't over," she said. "It is for tonight," the agent replied. They guided her out, past the homeowner she'd find, warned in silence for years. No shouting, no spectacle, just footsteps, a door closing. Someone exhaled. Another started to clap, then stopped. The room stayed quiet. The system had reset. For a moment, no one spoke. The air felt lighter, like pressure slowly released. Chairs shifted. A nervous laugh broke, then faded. People finally looked at each other instead of the front table. A woman turned back toward me. "I thought it was just me," she said quietly. "The notices, the threats." Then another voice, and another. Short confessions, half apologies. The board sat stunned, realizing how far they drifted on momentum instead of judgment. One rubbed her temples. Another stared at the empty chair Marjorie left behind. The tension I'd been carrying finally eased. Not relief exactly, just the absence of weight. For the first time since moving here, I wasn't bracing for the next email, the next knock, the next notice taped to my door. Outside, the desert evening settled into stillness. Inside, the neighborhood exhaled together. A phone buzzed on the front table. One board member glanced at it, swallowed, and put it on speaker. "This is Counsel for Conservancy." A tight voice said, "Based on what's been presented tonight, all energy credit activity is frozen effective immediately." A murmur rippled through the room. "The HOA is suspended from managing or aggregating power assets pending review. Restitution exposure is estimated in the low seven figures. Individual liability will be assessed separately." Someone whispered, "Seven figures?" Like testing its weight. The agent nodded once. "Criminal charges will be filed. Unauthorized access, fraudulent reporting, financial misrepresentation." No one argued. No one questioned. The call ended. The board member looked up, eyes glassy. "Effective now," she read from a new email. "The Conservancy is barred from reclassifying private energy assets without written homeowner consent, third-party verification, and recorded community vote." I didn't react. I didn't need to. The rules had finally caught up to reality. And for the first time, the system wasn't pointed at me. Someone asked what came next. The agent nodded toward the doors. Outside, a technician already waited, tablet ready to rekey relay access. No speeches. No ceremony. Just correction happening in real time. A board member stood. "All energy assets revert to individual control until further notice." She hesitated. "Effective immediately." I checked my phone as the dashboard refreshed. One node, one owner. My battery indicator rose smoothly, steady, clean, unshared. No spikes. No phantom drains. Around me, others checked their screens. Quiet nods passed between neighbors. No cheering, just understanding. This was what order was supposed to feel like. Boring. Precise. Fair. Outside, the last flashing lights disappeared down the road. The desert returned to its low, even hush. No sirens. No shouting. Just a faint hum of systems finally doing what they were designed to do. I capped my thermos and stood to leave. For the first time in months, nothing followed me out. In a neighborhood built on control, the real power returned the moment the noise stopped.